do as going from a HR perspective. So this is fantastic. And also feeling very positive about what we've got coming up next. Because it was really just such a fabulous day. We scanned the country high and low and thought, where do we find
They went really low.
ending to what is that up and top what we've already had today? It's pretty much close to impossible. But it's not impossible, because guess what? We found the remarkable Dave Clare, who Dave is providing our closing keynote today, AHRI Leadership and Workforce Readiness. And I couldn't love anything more than those believe in we are humans first and employees second. Gotta love that. So Dave is the Chief Evolution Officer and founder at Circle Leadership Group, hands-on leadership practitioner with 20 plus years in the trenches, and he champions that simple truth of being humans first and employees second. Please welcome, on the stage, already ready to go, ready to sit here and tell us how it is, direct from the trench. Please welcome Dave Clare.
Thank you. I didn't know my title of my session changed because I thought I was here to talk about redefining HR's role in a future that HR doesn't need a seat at the table anymore. For decades, I've sat across from people in this profession and over 3 different continents, and I found something common in every single one of them. And that is that every single one of them got into this work because they believed it matters. And not the compliance, not the policies and procedures, not the performance management cycles, but the human beings. And I think somewhere early on in your careers, you saw how the impact of good leadership could have on a person's life, and also how bad leadership can destroy it. And you guys all wanted to be on the right side of that. So you are those people, and this has been your fight. And that's what we're going to talk about today. But the question I'm sure most of you probably have is, why me? Why is this Canadian, half Australian? I got to get that very clear, I'm Canadian. All right, I'm a Aussie. So please understand that the Aussie in me may swear a little through this presentation, but have no fear, the Canadian in me will apologize for it. So if I say shit, I'm sorry, eh? Okay, but why me? I want to share a little bit about my background, my story. There's a whole bunch of my bio stuff up there you can have a look at. But for me, growing up as a young lad in Canada, my dad was a workaholic. Anyone have a parent who was a workaholic? Yeah, so my dad was a workaholic, and he worked for an organization, and that he would be working like 60 hours a week, right? It was so much so, actually, that I used to go in with him on a Saturday. He would go to work on a Saturday morning just to get some extra stuff done, and I would go with him just so I could spend time with him and sit in the office with him while he worked. Now, the downside to all that was, as kids, we just wanted him to be around, right? We just wanted to spend some time with him. But he worked for an organization that treated him like a resource, like an expendable commodity, a means to an end. And then after many years of working in that organization, through no fault of his own, he lost his job because of mismanagement of the organization. And I thought, wow. And like for us as kids, he put all that time and energy into this organization. They didn't care about Neville the father. They just cared about Neville the resource, employee 54927, and did he produce enough results for them? And then myself as a young father, I found myself as I started my career, actually here in Western Australia, working for the AHRI Bank. Anyone remember the rude and ignorant Bank of Western Australia, right? The old AHRI Bank, which became Bank West. And I started working about 60 hours a week. And I had my young son, my very first child, Mitchell. And I felt myself like, oh my God. And actually that was my employee number, 54927, right? And I found myself falling into the same trap, working long hours for an organization that only cared about me when I was producing results. And I thought, there has to be a better way. There has to be a better way for us in organizations. So I decided to actually go and start my MBA, majoring in human resources. So I did 1 year of my MBA, and at the end of that first year, guess what I found out? Everything that I was learning was already past its use-by date. So most of the stuff they were teaching me in my MBA, we'd already been doing in the organization. So I decided, well, I'm not going to keep doing that. So I finished and got my executive certificate in management, my only qualification I actually have in life, other than the ones that are up on the screen there as husband of the year and father of the year many times. Those are all, by the way, self-proclaimed titles. None of those have been officially backed up by anybody. But I didn't want to stop there. So I started studying human behavior, organizational behavior. And I thought, well, I want to learn more about this stuff. And then I moved to Canada and I started up my own leadership development business. And at the same time, I also started my own HR company called HR Performance and Results with a wonderful lady named Janice LaRue, who still runs the company today. I ended up selling my shares because what I found is my passion in all that was leadership. And I thought that's where I wanted to spend more of my time, in leadership and organizations, because I wanted to commit my life to helping build organizations where we actually care about people as human beings first and employees second, where we looked at having resources for humans, not humans as a resource. And so that's what I committed my life to. And that's where these first Clarisms you'll find, quirky little quotes that fall out of my mouth that sometimes make sense. That's what a Clarism is. And that's where this came from. I thought we should have resources for humans, not humans as a resource. And that we should treat people as human beings first, employees second. Can you imagine when we looked at every single person in an organization as a human being first? Wouldn't that be amazing? It'd be mind-blowing. Hey, how exciting would that be? If you want to applaud that, yes, please do. I've got some plants in the audience who are going to start applauding when I need them to. Yeah, thank you, Shane. So for now, guess what I get to do? I get up every single day and do the work that I love doing with the people I love doing it with, for the people I love doing it for. And I just wish that for everybody. Can you imagine waking up every single day getting to be able to do that? Well, that's what we're helping people do. I get to turn TGIF into TGIM in every organization we work for. Wouldn't that be amazing? Where people go, whoo, it's Monday. Let's go to work. Or how do you say it here? Work. Is that it? Just make sure. So that's why I'm here. My question for you is, why are you here? How many people have been asking this question, have asked this question, or asking this question, or trying to find the answer to this question today? Anybody trying to find out what the future of HR is? Yeah, it's a valid question, right? So we're all thinking, like, what is the future of HR? Now, this is a really good question. It's a valid question. But what if I was to tell you it's the wrong question? What if we've been asking the wrong question, right? The magic does not happen when you find the right answer. The magic happens when you find the right questions to ask. We need to start asking a different question, because if we keep asking the same question of the same people, guess what we're going to get? The same answers, right? And I think that's the definition of insanity or something like that. Anyone feel insane sometimes working in this industry or this profession? Yes. Okay. So I shared this with some people and they went, what? That question is wrong. So what's the right question then? So the question I would challenge us today to reflect on as we go through this whole process of everything we've learned today is this. What is the future of the human in the workplace? All right? What's the human's role in organizations? What is that role? And then, what is our role in that world? Right? We need to start asking us, what is the future of how people will work in organizations? And then what is the people that we currently call HR? What is our role in that world? Because when you do that, when you change that question and you ask it like this, everything actually changes in your world. The function of HR changes. The mandate changes. The fight changes. Does anyone ever feel like we're in a fight at times to show that we matter? Okay. Well, I want you to stop defending your department and start leading a future. Is everyone here ready to stop defending what we do for a living and actually start leading a future of what means to be human in the workplace? Is anyone with me on that? Okay, some of us. Okay, that's right. Wow, and I thought they said that WA was like the pillar of everything, right? Are we ready to start Leading a future, yes or no? Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, so here's the challenge we have. All the gurus, all the people we speak to, and people on panels, you've been to conferences, you've seen them all. They all tell you, they're all working through the same question. What is the future of HR? Okay, here's the challenge with that, and I will challenge the thinking of a lot of the gurus and experts out there, and I did some research before this. What do all the leading HR people think that what the future of HR is, right? And this is what they're asking of us. They want us to be smarter. They want us to be more strategic. They want us to be more valued. They want us to be incrementally better. Does that sound familiar? Okay, so the challenge we have is that thinking is what I call from here to there. Basically, we're saying, here's where we are today, and that's where we want to be tomorrow, so let's keep tweaking our way forward. Oh crap, this is happening, we better be able to react to that. Oh no, that's happening, now we need to react to that. And this is happening, and we're tweaking our way into irrelevance as an industry or a profession. Because that's what from here to there thinking is. When you ask the question that I have presented to you, that is what I call from there to here thinking. I want you to start with the end result in mind and go, what would that world look like? What would our role be in that world? And work backwards from there to here, and then say, what would we be doing now if that world was true? Rather than trying to keep imagining this future forward, because here's the secret, that thinking backwards is the way forward. I'm going to challenge all of you to start thinking backwards, because that is the best way to go forwards. So this is where it might sting a little bit for us, okay? So our industry here, we have been sitting there and trying to ask for permission to matter. Anyone ever feel like you have to ask permission for us to make a difference in the organization that we're in? Right? We have been working so hard to get permission to matter from the very people who make the decisions that make our work harder. Like this not make sense? We laugh because it's true, okay? So we've been asking permission to matter from the very people who make the decisions that make our job worse. I'm asking you to stop doing that. Because it's a trap, okay? Now, I know only some of the Star Wars nerds in the room will get that. I put this up for my brother. He lives here in WA, and he has the biggest Star Wars collection in West Australia. And so he loves it when I put up my Star Wars stuff. He goes, did you do any Star Wars for me? I said, yes, brother, I did. But it's a trap. It is a big trap. Right? That's not a strategy, right? It's a trap. Because we're fighting for a seat at a table. Has any one of you ever fought for a seat at the table? Right? We've been talking about this all day today. Who's been fighting for a seat at the table? Anyone? Okay. Well, what if we should get to a stage where, hey, holy crap, imagine if instead of having a seat at the table, we were in every seat at the table. Wouldn't that be kind of cool? Where we don't even just have to have a seat at the table, where the thought and philosophies of creating an organization that's human first, employee second, where we have resources for humans, not humans as a resource, sat in every single seat at the table. What about that future? And I get pushback from this. They said, oh, but Dave, what about accountability if things go wrong? Right? Because the old thinking is leading that. Because in that thinking, guess what they believe? That employee experience is your job, not leadership's job. They think it's your responsibility, not theirs. And that's why you get pushback, and that's why they're worried about, well, what if it goes wrong? Right? It's a leadership problem, not an HR problem. Yeah. So all the leaders in the room, we're coming after you. We're coming to get you. So let me give you an example of an organization, and I know there's been a lot of talk of AI, and I will play with a little bit of it today, but not in any great depth. Anyone ever heard of Klarna? It's a fintech app, right? So Klarna, about 2 years ago, when AI was like, this is cool, guess what? We got rid of 700 customer service agents, eliminated them, and replaced them with AI. And then they got rid of a whole bunch more people, like 2,000 people in total. And within 12 months of doing that, they lost $40 billion, that's with a B, $40 billion off their market cap. And guess what they started doing? Bringing people back. Because their customers were complaining that they'd lost their humanity. And they didn't like it. And so they had to start pulling humans back into the workforce. And the last 2 years, they've been just hiring and hiring and hiring, bringing more people back. So yes, AI will take off a lot of the work that we do, but it will not replace humans when humans want to deal with humans. And this is a really cool example. And this is only in the last couple of years. Now, I did some other statistics, because I know there's some people in the room who like compliance and like stats and data. So the World Economic Forum posted these statistics. They surveyed 1,000 global companies, 14 million employees, right, in 55 different economies. And they said by the year 2030, 1/3 of the jobs that people do will be gone. And that's just pretty much in the next 3.5 years. And then the remaining 2/3 will be done by humans and or in partnership with AI. Right? So AI is going to have a massive impact on our workforce. Yes, it is absolutely going to. We've seen all that. But that's because we lived in a world where we had human doings. Has anyone ever felt like a human doing? Right? You know, when you go to a workplace, and I'll come over here. Ashley, hi, I'm Dave. Right? When I introduce myself to Ashley, what's one of the first questions Ashley or I are going to ask the other? What do you do? Well, I don't know. I used to do stuff. AI does it now. So I don't know. I don't know what I do anymore. I don't even know who I am because my identity was attached to what I do, and now AI does it, so I don't know. Right? Because we're so used to being human doings now, we're not human beings. Guess what we're doing? We're doing the task, we're doing the reports, we're doing the admin, we're doing the process, we're doing the repetition stuff. But now we are in the age of the human being. Who's excited about going back to work and being a human being, not a human doing? Anybody excited about being a human being? Yeah, woo! Like, wow, I actually get to be. So I go, instead of now, hey, Ashley, what do you do? It's like, hi, Ashley, tell me about you. Who are you? And you can tell me all about who you are. I don't care about what you do because you're a human being and I want to get to know you, the human being, not you, the human doer. Because you won't be doing stuff anyway. You won't be doing shit no more, right? Don't worry about it. Okay, so please understand this. You don't do creativity, you don't do imagination, you don't do curiosity, you don't do intuition, you don't do empathy. You be those things. This is what being a human being is all about. We be these things. We be curious, we be creative, we be intuitive, we be imaginative, right? We be empathetic. And these are the human skills, the skills that we all have, that we were all born with. They're innately human. These are the things that we all have. But what's been happening in organizations through school and organizations for decades now? We've been trying to squish this out of the human being for so long, and now we're asking people to be these things. Does anyone remember the Kalgoorlie to Perth, the Kalgoorlie pipeline here, right? And we all know the famous story of C.Y. O'Connor, he committed suicide and all that. But it was like the 4th largest infrastructure project in all of Australian history. I don't know if you know that, right? Massive. And then they built that pipeline, and if anyone's been out to Kalgoorlie, phenomenal golf course, don't otherwise you would go out to Kalgoorlie, but hey, it's there. No, I love Kalgoorlie, it's great. But you go there, and this is done. Now, when they turn the tap on, right, they open the big valves, and they open it up. How much water do you think came out as soon as they opened up those valves? Nothing. And they thought, oh my God, we've just done this massive, and this is like back in the early 1900s, if you can imagine, how much money, $4 billion would have been way back then we spent on this massive project. And all of a sudden we turned the tap on and nothing came out. And they're like, oh shit, now what are we gonna do? And you know what, it was about 2 days later, all the water started coming out. Because what did they forget? How long it would take for that water pressure to build up for it to finally come out. So now we're in our organizations, we're going to ask our people to be creative and curious and imaginative and intuitive and empathetic and all this sort of stuff. And we go, okay, now we want you to do all that. And you go, well, where is it? Why aren't you being creative now? Well, because for the last 20 years, you stopped me from being creative. Now you want me to be creative. And it's going to take time to turn that tap back on. It's going to take time for that to come out. But we have to give people the time and space to be able to do that. Because this is the work that humans must do. Which is leading us to what we have right now is a leadership crisis. Because we have forgotten what it means to be human in the workplace, right? Because we've been so busy doing stuff and being a resource and an expendable commodity and a means to an end to organizations that now we don't know what it means to be human anymore in the workplace. We're starting to find out. So what is it? And I've already alluded to it. This is what it means to be human in the workplace. Anything that requires your creativity, your curiosity, your imagination, your intuition, your empathy, and dare I say your critical thinking skills, which could be a combination of all those things, that's what it means to be human. That's the work that humans must do in organizations today. And what profession might be best suited to help bring that out in people? Anyone have any ideas who that might be? All right, are we all in the wrong room? Just checking. All right, so how many of you remember growing up, for me, I'm a Gen Xer. I know I don't look it, but thank you. But as a Gen Xer, I was brought into the world where they go, Dave, you're paid to work, not to think. Anyone ever remember hearing that? You're paid to work, not to think. And for a year now, I've been joking with leaders, said, oh, it's wonderful, but here's the new mantra, and I'm sort of half-heartedly joking, but I'm dead serious. And that is, you're here to think, and if you have to do some work, let me know. Because now you're paid to think, and if you have to do some work, let me know, and I'll either find somewhere else to do it or whatever, we'll get AI to do it for you, whatever. Because I want you to think. Right? We want to get our human beings to be able to think for themselves. I ask this question of leaders all around the world. I have clients all around the world. I speak at events all around the world. And the simple question I always ask them is, what do you wish your people would? Right? What do you wish your people would? ... Answer that for me. And the number one answer I get, bing, 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 survey says, comes up there, I just wish my people would think for themselves. Yet we've set organizations up where it's totally the opposite. Does anybody have any value statements in their organization? Okay, for those who have value statements, except for Shane, because I know he's been working with me, how many of them sound like this? We value this, which means we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. Or we demonstrate, we demonstrate, we demonstrate. Yes? Okay, anyone have job description forms in their organizations? How many of those job description forms sound like this? Here's what to do, when to do it, how to do it, who to do it, how many times to do it, how often to do it, here's the tools to do it. Sound like that? Probably not that fast, but it sounds like that. Yes? Okay. So why would your people need to think for themselves when everything you've got in your organization is set up to tell them what to think, not teach them how to think? And now we want them to think for themselves, and we've done everything in our power to tell them what to think. And that's why they do stuff. And now they don't need to do stuff anymore, and we need them to learn how to think for themselves. So the AI dilemma that we have is generative AI has been talked a lot about today. This was designed, guess what? Oh, we have to implement generative AI right now because it's going to make us competitive, right? It's going to improve our performance and our productivity and our profitability. So let's put AI into our business. But you know what generative AI is? It's so last year. Like, it's just so last year, right? Right? Generative AI, we've moved on from that. We're now at agentic AI. And we've got AI now that can do the jobs. It can do complex thinking and processes, and it can do tasks for us. Anyone been playing around with Claude Code and Dispatch and co-work and all this stuff? Like, it can do so much stuff for us now. So now, guess what we're going to have? We're going to have a bunch of human beings who are going to lead a team of AI agents. So you might have AI do a lot of work for you now, and guess what? You now might have 6 AI agents who are helping you do the work that you were doing. And here's the cool part about AI agents. They don't need toilet breaks. They don't need a smoko, right? They don't need to go to lunch. They don't need holidays. They don't need that, all right? They don't need any of that stuff. And they're going to be working 24/7, 365, and you're going to have a human being leading that team of AI agents. So what do you think that means to your organization? Well, that it should hopefully incite you this thought, is that top-down leadership is a thing of the past, but all-around leadership is the way forward. We need to develop more leadership in our organizations now, because leadership is a process. You don't need a position or title to demonstrate leadership, but we need more leadership depth and strength in our organization. And when I say depth and strength, I'm not talking about more layers of leadership. I'm talking about going deeper into the concept of leadership in our organizations. That's what we need. Okay? Because we're going to have human beings who have never led before now leading teams of people. Well, but they're going to be digital people. So everyone's going to need to demonstrate leadership in the organization. Right? Because you're going to have 2 levers you're going to pull in your business from now on, and that is AI and humans. You're going to deploy AI and you're going to employ human beings. Right? And so we need to make sure every other outcome in your business will come from your ability to deploy AI and employ the right human beings. And then with those human beings, of course, we need to be able to show them leadership. And as I mentioned earlier in the panel, that businesses do not run out of money. They run out of ideas and innovation, and ideas and innovation come from people, not budgets, and not AI. It is a finding game, not a funding game. We need to find the best talent. We need to retain the best talent, and we need to develop the living shit out of the best talent that we have in our organizations. Now, please understand, with AI, yes, you may need less, but you will still need the best. We may need less human beings in the future for particular roles, but you will still need the best. So your organization has to be one that's going to attract the best people. Right? Because everyone is going to be able to have the same AI, but who's going to be able to attract the best people to their organization? Who's going to be able to keep the best people in the organization? And who are the people who are positioned best to make sure that that happens? Your own statistics from AHRI say that in 3 to 5 years, 9 out of 10 roles in an organization are at risk in the next 3 to 5 years. And only 7% of organizations are employing critical thinking skills in their teams. That's your stats from your industry, your organization, your association. Gallup, anyone see the Gallup Global Engagement Survey reports? This one makes me cry every time I hear it and read it. In 2026, guess what? 74% of the workforce are disengaged in the work that they're doing. It used to be 70, now it's 74%. That is a 5-year low. That means 2.5 billion employees in the world today are unhappy at work. And for the CFOs, if there's any left in the room, I think they all bugged out if we asked the budget question. I don't know, Billy's still in it. That's 10 trillion, that with a T, $10 trillion of lost productivity in organizations through disengagement in the workplace. So if the CFOs want to know why we should be actually hiring the right people and doing stuff, and well, it's because you're losing $10 trillion already. And I don't know about you, if you're spending all the money we spend on leadership development today, and I told you the stats are going to get worse, we're going to have more disengaged people, and it's going to lose $10 trillion, and you're not a CFO, would you still make that investment? Doesn't sound like a smart one to me. And here's the Australian statistics, if you'd like. 21% of employees here in Australia are engaged. 66 are not engaged. What does not engaged mean? They just show up and go paycheck to paycheck and do the bare minimum they can to get through the day and go home. But then there's 13% who are actively disengaged. Do you know what the actively disengaged are doing in your business? Yeah, they're doing this and some of this, right? What they're doing is they're actually sabotaging the success of your organization. You have saboteurs in your business. So how many of you people, has anyone here got say 50 employees in their team? I know you do, okay? So there's a good chance that 16 or whatever employees in your organization are actively trying to find a way to sabotage your business. That's a staggering number if you think about that. And here we have the two things then. So we have people really disengaged, and we have more AI being used in organizations. We have these two things happening right now. So please understand, that is not a failure of execution. That is the correct output of what happens when you start working on the wrong question. Because we're always trying to work out what the future of HR is. We keep asking that same damn question, and the stats aren't getting better. So I don't have to be an industry guru or an expert to know that there's something wrong. But that is the correct response to the wrong question. That's what we're getting. So if that's not enough information or evidence to say we should change the question, I don't know what is. Because let me assure you that doing was never the point. Being was always the point. But we built businesses for the wrong thing. We built businesses to turn humans into drones and worker bees, and we're wondering why we have the results we do today. So let me ask you, in this new future, what do you think you're responsible for? What are you responsible for as the people, let's call us ourselves HR as we are right now? What are we responsible for? How many of you feel that we're kind of responsible for the experience that people bring to our organization and the time they bring. We have to find the right people with the right experience and talents and make sure that they'll show up and do the work that we want them to do. Is that what it feels like sometimes? That we're responsible for that experience and time? Well, what if in this new future you're actually more responsible for the experience they have with the time they give to your organization? Because I would challenge you that what you are responsible for is how people experience the organization that they give their time to. That's what our role is make sure that people have an amazing experience. Right? Especially in a world today where, do you think that we're going to have jobs for life today? You think we're going to have people who have 30-year careers in the same organization? No. So wouldn't it be great, though, if they left your organization and they spoke so positively about it? Like, my time at Puma Energy was the best time I ever had. It was an amazing experience there. And I learned so much that allowed me to go on. I know, because Nicola said this is how people speak all the time there. Right, but they go, wow, like that was an amazing experience I had there. And I'm forever grateful. I always look back at that time in my life when I got to spend that time there. It was great. It set me up for so many different things that I get to do for a living. So are your people in your organization, are they seen or are they invisible? Are they developed or are they stagnant? Are they trusted or are they managed? Sorry, wait for some take a photo. What we want today, I assure you, what people want to do is they want to connect to purpose. I want to know that the work I'm doing matters. I want to do meaningful work. I want to work for an organization that has a purpose beyond a paycheck. I also want the work that I do to be meaningful. And I want to hang out with some cool people. I want to find my people. I want to find my tribe. Is there anybody who wants to find their tribe and hang out? Which is probably why we're all here and not at the office today, right? But do we want to find our tribe? We want to find epic people to hang out with, people that we connect with, where we feel we belong. Would anybody like to work at a place where you feel you belong? Yes? We spend half our waking lives in the workplace, people. I don't know if you realize this. And if you're going to do it, wouldn't it be cool to spend it where you feel you belong, where you hang out with really cool people and do epic work for an amazing organization? Yeah, cool. So how do you know when you've developed a sense of belonging in your organization? How do you know? TGIM, absolutely. This is a great answer. Well, this is why my experience at Puma Energy was so great, and I'll forever remember my time there. I thought it was because I wear Puma shoes. I thought, is it the shoe company or is it the gas company? I didn't know it's the gas company. Okay. Right, so here's how it is. This is going to be earth-shattering, right? This is the big mic drop moment. Okay, everyone ready? You want to take a picture of this? I'm going to give you the answer on how you know you've developed a sense of belonging. Everybody ready? All right, it's going to be earth-shattering. Okay, I'm building it up as best I can. You know you've developed a sense of belonging when people want to be here for a long time. I want to belong here. That's probably one of my finest Clarisms ever. I think it's so good. Like, I'm just a word nerd. Like, it's just a word nerd. But the answer to most things are actually in the word. I want to know that people want to be here for a long time. And when they're here for a long time, I want to make sure it's the most amazing experience that they've ever had, however long that time is. So what else are you responsible for? Here's an interesting one. The title of my newest book, It's Time to Lead Different. You're here to make sure that we lead different. Has the world changed? Have people's expectations changed? Has consumer changed? Has technology changed? Everything has changed, yet we're still leading organizations the way we always have, when everything around us has changed. So you're responsible, and you heard a lot of it talk about it today in the panels and everything like that, and all the other sessions. It's going to come down to leadership. Okay? So we need to lead different. And right now, the challenges we have these managers. This might even be HR managers. I don't know. Does this feel like an HR manager picture? I don't know. Does this feel like how you feel at work sometimes? I know this is how Shane feels because I've seen it on his face before. He's walked in like, what's going on, bud? All right? So we have these managers who are overwhelmed, right? They're overloaded with work. And Gartner said in their study that they surveyed 800 HR professionals, and in 2024, 75% of the managers were overwhelmed with the work that they're doing. And 51% said they're overcommitted in the amount of work that they have to do. Right? And in 2026, we have 22% of managers who are actually, only 22% are actually engaged in the work they're doing. So what's the opposite number to that? 78? So can you imagine we have 78% of managers out there who are disengaged. We have the disengaged leading the disengaged. And we're wondering why the shit's hit the fan and we're not producing results and why we have to go slash budgets and do all this stuff. But this is the problem with those managers. We gave people the wrong job and then we measured how poorly they were doing the right one. I know we laugh because it's true. We gave them the wrong job and we measure how poorly they're doing the right job. The right job is looking after people. So here's a question we can ask in this new world. Instead of, how do I manage this person? We could be asking, how do I create the conditions where this person does the best work of their life? What conditions could I help to create so that you can do the best work of your life? Rather than, how do I manage this person to make sure I get the results and performance that I want from them? Because remember, we lead people and we manage resources, and people are not a resource. Is there anybody who jumps out of bed in the morning and goes, woohoo, can't wait to be an expendable commodity today. Woohoo, can't wait to be a means to an end today. Woohoo, can't wait to make the boss rich today. And so the bosses might going, yeah, that'd be great. I would love that. It'd be awesome. So if AI can take over most of the doing and most of what management actually can do, what management does, what is the only thing that's left? What's the only thing that's left? Leadership. We don't need better managers. We need to give leaders back the time to be human, right? We need to give them back time to be human. And I find in most organizations that managers are more, this is their thought process: product, process, people. We've got to make sure that we're producing the product, and we've got to make sure that we have the right process so that we get the people can do that work that we need them to do. But leadership is the other way around. Leadership is people, process, and the product will take care of itself. If we get the right people and help them to be the best and set them up to do their best work today, they will follow the right processes and make sure we have the right processes in place. They will produce great products. What else are you responsible for in this new world? Well, here's one, and it's been talked a little bit about today as well. This is the biggest lie in leadership today. I got some 1-day, 3-day, 5-day workshops for you. I've got a couple over here, some courses, some certificates, some programs you can buy. How many of you have invested in 1-day, 3-day, 5-day workshops, courses, whatever, for your people? And how many of you honestly have seen a significant change in that, other than it was a great experience, it was really great content? Yes, it was like fireworks, it was amazing. But they get back to work and they're doing the same thing they had to do because the realities of work have hit back again, and having had a great experience and more binders on the shelf. Okay? We all know. Okay? So this, not only if it's time to lead different, guess what? It's also time to learn different. We can't keep learning the way that we have because it's not working. Otherwise, we wouldn't have such disengagement rates in the organizations. If this leadership development we've been investing in was actually working, well, we wouldn't have people so disengaged. But most of what we call leadership today is just modern management practices. How many units are actually on leading people? How many are on human behavior and how your mind works and comfort zones and all these cool things that people need to understand to help people become the best version of themselves so they can do their life's best work while in your care and beyond? So I propose that we need to start focusing on less, because less is more often. Because you send someone away for 3 days on a leadership course, do you think the brain can process how much content you get in a 3-day course, all that information, let alone retain it and process it and be able to do something with it? There's a diminishing rate of return on that. So what if we focused on smaller, bite-sized pieces, more practical, pragmatic in the workplace, where people could do that, consume less, and actually achieve more and do more often? It's like the Pareto principle. If you go to a 3-day course, 20% of the stuff you learn will have 80% of the impact that your benefit you're going to get from that course. Then you spend the remaining 80% of that time learning 20%. What if you only worried about the 20% that gives you the 80, then took that extra 80% of the time and put it back into the first 20? I assure you, you would get far greater results than the shit we're getting now. So we need to learn different as well. right? So if leadership development is still something that you send people to, you're not serious. You're just buying hope with a receipt. And we're trying to justify the invoice that we have spent. How many people have felt like I measure leadership development by completion rates? Yep, they completed that certificate, they completed that credit, they've done this course, they've got this. And that's how we define the fact that we've been developing people. Without true, real business results that are changing because that person's behaviors change and they become who they're capable of, and thus, therefore, are driving different results in the organization. We need to change the way we think about leadership development. If leadership is going to be one of the biggest things in our organizations in this future, then we need to really consider how we develop leaders. So, once again, one more little Star Wars thing. Shout out to my brother Jason. If you're watching, Jay, this one's for you. All right? There is no HR development. There is no HR department. Did that Jedi mind trick work? No? Yeah. My metachlorian count must be too low. Only the people who understand that will know what I've talked about. Okay? And it's not, what if we had a world where there was no HR department? Not because nobody cares, but because everybody cares. Every single human being, every leader, every C-suite, doesn't matter what your role is, cares about the human being. Can you imagine that? We wouldn't need an HR department for what it is today. There would be no need for leadership programs, because let me assure you that leadership is a process, not a program, right? And leadership is not a position or title, okay? It's a mindset, okay? I know a lot of people go to a leadership development course, they take the certificate, slap it up on the wall behind their head and say, don't talk to me about leadership, fella, I know leadership. I've got the certificate to prove it. I have been doing leadership for 30 years in 3 different countries, and I'm still learning, right? I'm still learning because the world is changing, people's changing, organizations are changing, technology is changing, so leadership and all those different things has to keep changing. You can't just go and learn leadership and come back and then get back to what you're doing and go, I know leadership. It doesn't work that way. You don't need engagement surveys in this future because the leaders would know how their people feel already because they created the conditions in which those people could feel that way. Imagine that. Sorry for all the vendors out there who sell engagement surveys. Thank you for your sponsorship. We really appreciate it at AHRI. It's really cool. And if AI can handle all the transactional stuff, then humans can lead everything human. Wouldn't that be cool? Please understand, this is not where you're heading as an industry or an association or a profession. This is where you can arrive. This is your time to arrive in this place, in this space. We don't need to head there. We can arrive there. And then what they'll say, this is what people will say. The people who built this used to be called HR. That's what we used to be called. Yeah. Well, you used to call them HR? What did that mean? Well, we had this big H and little r because we had these humans that we resourced. See? So, did you want that back up? Sorry. No. Good, because I don't know how to hit the back button. So now, your industry can become the culture architects, the capability architects, the belonging architects of these organizations that we need to have in the world today, right? Because let me assure you this, that tomorrow's workforce is ready for today, but today's workplace is not here, right? The workplace that they want is not here, right? Today's workforce is ready for the workplaces that do not yet exist. It's our job to help bring those into reality. Now, let me tell you a quick story. This is a good friend of mine. This is Gary Ridge. I don't know if anyone knows this little blue and yellow can with the little red lid. Gary's a very good friend of mine. He's did the testimony to one of my books, and he's been on my podcast a few times, and he's wonderful. He's retired now. But he's an Aussie guy from Sydney, right? And that's the title of his latest book. It's so good, any dumbass can do it. But this is Gary, and he shared some really cool things when I talked to him on the podcast about how WD-40 went from a $250 million company to a $6 billion company, all off the back of creating a tribe of human beings who cared about each other. That's what he credits his success, and the success of WD-40 in his 20 years there was building this tribe of human beings who actually cared about each other. And he said this, what most people ask are, where are we on the project? What's the update? But Gary's question was always this: what do you need from me this week to do your best work of your life? What can I do for you that's going to help you do your best work of your life today, this week, this project, whatever it is that you're working on. Instead of saying, what's the number? What's the human experience that's going to get us to that number? What condition do we need to create for the human beings that would get us to that number? What's the experience we would need to create for that? So what you need to ask yourself is, how do I create the conditions where people do their best work of their lives today? What can I do to set you up, Lana, so you can do the best work of your life today? Help me to understand what that is, and we'll see what we can do to bring that into reality for you. Because that's why you're here. We want you to bring your best self to work every day, Lana, and become even more of what you're capable of while you're here. So whatever I can do to help you with that, let me know. Who wants to work in that organization? Yeah, wouldn't that be kind of cool? So there are other organizations starting to move in this space. So Moderna, I don't know if any of you know that, this company, Moderna, but they've gone from workforce planning just to work planning. And I think what Kat, that we're showing earlier is about work planning. And that's what if you watch their session, please take note of everything they shared with you, because that's leading edge thinking. Okay, what they shared with you, because it's more about work planning rather than workforce planning. Anyone remember having to do workforce planning? One of HR's biggest tasks, we got to do workforce planning to match the strategy to do. Airbnb, 10 years ago, they got rid of their head of HR. They just created employee experience. They have a person now who's responsible for making sure that we lead the employee experience in our organization. So, question. What if HR disappeared from your organization tomorrow? How many think that leaders would know how to continue the work? Anyone? No. You know what that makes you? Valuable. But here's the kicker. What does the organization look when it's human-centered? Human-centered value is so embedded in every leader that HR, its strategic worth becomes redundant. What does that make you? Invaluable. If they need you because you're here and they can't survive without you, you're valuable. But if you can create a legacy that transcends your time and build an organization where HR sits, or whatever we call HR today, sits in every seat at the table, then you've become invaluable. Who would like to be invaluable to an organization? So people experience is a strategic variable, not an HR initiative. Leadership development is measured by behavioral change, not completion rates. Okay? If AI does most of the tasks that humans did, will you start doing performance reviews on your AI? We did them on the humans, so why wouldn't we do it on the AI? Right? Because we've been measuring the wrong thing for so long. So everything in your organization can be copied, right? They can copy your AI, they can copy your tactics, your products, your processes, your procedures. Everything about your business can be copied, yes? What's the only thing that people can't copy about your business? Your people. Your ability to capture the spirit of your people. So it is your culture, obviously, that is your one true sustainable competitive advantage that you have in an organization. Where AI can, yes, help you to remain competitive, but human beings are your one true sustainable competitive advantage in your organization. And which is the industry or profession that looks after the people? So humans' role is to be freed from the doing. We need to free our peoples from the doing. So they're free to think, free to create, free to connect, and free to lead. To be human. Can you imagine if we could help people to be human again? Who would like to help people be human again? Anyone? I know we're getting close to the end of the day. If you don't start answering these questions, we're going to keep going until we get an answer. All right, so I'm going to challenge you with this. You no longer need to fight for a seat at the table. Please stop fighting for a seat at the table. Stop asking for permission to matter from people who are making the decisions to make your problems worse. You need to stop asking permission for that. You need to start leading in this space. You were right all along. You were just fighting the wrong fight. So let me leave you with this one last thought. The profession just got its mandate, and it was always yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dave. I think we can take away so many Clarisms. I've never heard of Clarisms before.
I didn't make it up, I assure you.
I don't know about all of you, but how awesome does the world sound from HR and
Yes.
Goodness, and also to be that invaluable. So thank you, and hopefully we can spend the next 2 weeks of